hello, my beautiful viewers on E360. Here we are with an amazing author, and it's our first murder mystery author that we are highlighting today. We are so excited, and for me, being here in New Zealand with my grandchildren, I am truly blessed. I'm truly blessed to have my Rosebud, beautiful Laura, and my Miracle Man. And then I would love to do a shout out to beautiful Penny for introducing Colin to us. Penny, here is to you, my beautiful one. Colin, we are truly thrilled to have you here as our spotlight author. It's going to be an amazing show, and just enjoy. And my beautiful Rosebud, if I can ask you to introduce yourself, and then Laura, and then Howard, and then Colin, we're going to ask you to introduce yourself. And we are currently in 5 different countries.
Yeah.
So how incredible. We are global. We are global. So my beautiful Rosebud, please introduce yourself.
Yes, so I'm Rosebud, also known as Krista Rose, though. I'm coming from Ontario, Canada, so I'm representing the Canadians. And I help people who are living in pain still live meaningful lives. And that's why I wrote the book, Skip the Pain, Experience the Pleasure. Cut the crap that's holding you back so you can live the life you love. I'm a speaker. I'm also a co host of this amazing program that you guys are watching right now. And I'm an energy worker, and I deal with life force energy, our spirit energy, everything around us. Everything is energy. And I'm just so excited. I could feel the vibration of this whole show, and it's going to be amazing. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Laura Brennan Ballet, born, bred, and proud American. However, at the moment, I am sitting in the beautiful country of France, seeing family. So it's very wonderful that we're representing more than one home base. I am a thought energy expert. Everyone knows I love energy, it is in everything. I look at everything within the structure of energy, and a special shout out to our own personal miracle man for the living energy formula that I also speak about, which is around the science of empowerment. Thought energy specialist, empowerment coach, and speaker, and all those beautiful things. But at the present moment, very proud to be a part of this incredible global family. And Colin, we are honored to have you here, and we look forward to asking you some questions so that the listening audience really becomes excited about purchasing your book and reading your mindset energy.
Thank you. So I'm affectionately known from my dancing queen and butterfly, Sanette, as the Miracle Man. But I am also Mr. Shining Brightly, the original. I am here. Put on your glasses. There we go. Colin, give me some of the. There you go. You can make glasses. So I am an author. I'm a speaker. I have a worldwide podcast. And I help leaders that are struggling get back up, because we all get knocked down in life and in business and in health and in relationships. And we use the light of others to lift up ourselves and then go do kindness and healing and giving. And then we shine brightly and make the world a better place. And I love being one of the OG hosts of this show. We just enjoy it. And we're going to dig in deep with you, Colin. So I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. Amazing. And such a privilege to be on the show. Thank you all for inviting me in. And like you said, Sanae, thank you to Penny for the introduction. So I'm Colin Wade. To complete the global circuit, I am in Oxford in England today. And I am a author of crime and murder mystery thrillers. And I'm also a speaker. I do speaking about my author career, which I've been doing for about 15 months now. And thoroughly enjoying it. And honestly, I say it's such an honor to be in front of you today, and I look forward to your questions.
We're excited, but we have to do something. Our voice amplifier, would you please introduce yourself?
Thank you, my beautiful Miracle Man. I am Sanette. I'm currently in New Zealand, but from South Africa. and I'm your voice amplifier, creating space and stages for incredible souls around the world to come and share their brilliance, their wisdom, and their transformative stories on all my platforms. And the magazine went out, reveal went out, and yesterday I started doing the advertising for the magazine, and it's truly magnificent. So I am so excited. Thank you, my beautiful one. So, my beautiful ladies and my beautiful miracle man, I'm going to start. I'm going to be a little bit selfish. Please forgive me. But I wanted to find out from beautiful Colin, what inspired you to be an amazing, amazing author?
Thank you. That's very kind. I say this quite a lot, that I don't think writing was necessarily a kind of lifelong ambition. But I think I had the opportunity back in 2016 when I stopped working, essentially stopped my full-time career. And it's one of those moments in life with a bit of time on your hands. And although I did do a part-time job, I kind of had every afternoon free. And I'd always been a massive reader. And it literally one afternoon, I sort of thought, I kind of wonder whether I can do this thing. I think you read books, there's some books you love, some books you don't like quite so much. And I think I just felt this was something I wondered whether I could do. And I think they say there's a story in everybody. And I just sort of started putting words on paper. It was as simple as that. And just over the months, threw it in front of the family. And as the manuscript grew and grew, and I was getting more positive feedback, your confidence grows, and you think, maybe this is something you can do. So, it was very much a sort of short-term whim, I suppose, to give it a go. And as they say, the rest is history.
I just need to give you this because you are incredible. Oh, I put it off for the children because they keep on pressing it. Here we go. Thank you. So, my beautiful Colin, we will go around and we will be asking the questions. Thank you, my rosebud.
So, Colin, I really enjoyed reading this. And it was interesting because I got so much into the story, I forgot there's an author behind it. It seems so real. So then coming on today, after having some of my questions, realizing I'm going to be able to speak with the author, kind of get that behind the scenes questions that I now have after reading it. So one of the things that I know in my life that kind of directs me is my mindset. So depending on what I'm focusing on. So where was your mindset while we were actually writing the book, while you're in the book, while you're doing, because it's a murder mystery?
Yeah.
Where did your mindset go, and how did you create that that type of mindset, that type of environment?
Yeah, I think there's a number of things. I always say that I've always got a pretty good idea of how the whole book is going to be. I've got the structure of the story, the characters are basically there. But I think that one of the things with this book in particular that I think really put me, as you say, into the mindset was the location. And I mean, murder mysteries, this is the third murder mystery one I've written. But this one in particular, my wife and I went to a hotel in the Cotswolds in England. And first time we'd ever been there. And literally I was driving up the driveway and it's sort of twisty turny and there was sort of fields on the right and there was a lovely lake and everything else. And as we hit the crest of the hill and I saw the facade of the manor house, the story that was kind of in my head absolutely came to life. And so I think that really helped me. So, back to your question, when you're in the mindset that you are in that place and you are essentially describing the story. So what I was really doing was putting fictional characters into a real hotel location. And if you read the book, and if you went to this hotel, you would actually see you could pretty much walk the book because it's pretty much described as the hotel and the grounds are laid out. And it inspired me to, without giving too much away, like where's the body going to be put, or where is one of the bodies going to be put? And it was just little things like that, as I said, for this particular book, put me entirely in the mindset. But I think the other thing I'd also say, and so now you asked me sort of about kind of what inspires you, what influences you. I've always been a massive Agatha Christie fan. And so
Oh.
when I first wrote my first murder mystery, that was very much me asking myself, can I write something like Agatha? Obviously, more I wrote in the modern day, so it's not, the kind of period of time that she writes. But that also inspired me. So I think the mindset of, trying to write a kind of classic whodunit that Agatha Christie is so famous for, alongside the location that, as I say, was entirely real for me, was very much where I was at during the writing.
Wow, that's fantastic. And you actually stole one of my questions, was this a real place? So, that having that information now even makes it more, I don't know, spooky. Like it's like now I gotta go to that place. It makes it more real. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
So I told you we all steal each other's questions, Colin.
Yeah.
And so I'm moving off into the branches, right, of the main tree of where our like-mindedness goes. And I have so many things I want to ask you, but I'm going to move away from kind of the flow of the question. I'm going to go into what I love to do is thought energy and empowerment. And I'm not going to give anything away, but you have a main character in the book. We'll just say she's a woman. And right at the beginning of the book, there's a line in the book that for some reason really settled in when I was thinking about you writing. And the line is, let me decide what is relevant when this person is interviewing a couple of people. What was it about the writing process that allowed you to empower this woman character in the way that you did? Because she is empowered, even though she moves a little bit and slips a little bit, right, and questions some things about herself. There's something about her that always stays on top of her position of what she's trying to accomplish. So can you maybe give us a little insight to this main character without maybe giving it away, but just kind of the writer's perspective? I think you know where I'm going with this. So
I do. And I think, again, there's probably a couple of things to say about that. I think one of the things that I decided to do pretty much from book one is to make the majority of my protagonists female. Because I think women are very much underrepresented, particularly in crime fiction. You'll know many of the famous authors who have detectives or whatever, and they all tend to be male. And I kind of felt that was something that I wanted to do. But I say this quite a lot. I think it's inspired a little bit by the fact that I worked for the police service in the UK for about 13 years. I wasn't a police officer; I was a civilian. But the one thing that that happened, certainly in the early years of working for the police, was that the chief constable was a female, and I was incredibly inspired by her and some of the struggles that she'd been through to get to where she wanted to be. And I just thought she was such an incredible individual. And there were others as well. There were other officers at senior rank who, told me stories that actually were quite horrific about some of the kind of hurdles they had to get through. And so I think kind of subconsciously that sort of stayed with me. And I kind of wanted to sort of demonstrate, some of that, like you say, some of that empowerment. And you're right, without giving too much away in the book, I think the main character in that book, what I really wanted to try and show was that this was an individual who had a family, had a husband, had a young child, and was somebody that was battling the inevitable work-life balance challenges of that, and being a senior officer and some of the issues that brings. And so you're right. There's throughout the book, there's kind of parts where you're right. She's sort of feeling stressed, feeling doubted about herself, but it's always coming back to the fact that she's achieved this and she's achieved a senior rank, and therefore she deserves everything that she gets in terms of delivering results for the police service.
What a beautiful answer. That's why I love that. What that let me decide what is relevant.
Yeah,
It's amazing how, as a fellow storyteller and writer and author, but for the readership who is not, and for the pure joy of reading, there's always a moment in the book, any part of the book, that
yeah,
really sparks something within the reader where they can see that moment, right? And that connected with me. And I'm really love how you answered that because it brought me into her character. I
sure.
saw the moments of vulnerability, but yet the
Yeah,
skill set and what she achieved and what kept her almost on top of that wave. So
yeah.
I really connected with how you wrote about her and how you just explained it. So thank you. Perfect
Thank
answer.
you.
I wrote down female leads and sheroes and all that. So you stole my question, Laura, but it's all right.
Sorry.
We do that all the time. So
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing. Colin, I want to tell you that I was trying to, because I wrote a memoir. Okay. We all wrote little
Mm,
different types of books. Okay.
sure.
And I'm just trying to get into your head a little bit. How did you layer this? Because how do you keep people turning the pages? Because we took some wrong turns, we took some right turns. I had to get back on track, but it did keep me turning the page. But was that like something that evolves, or you knew what the ending was and you work your way back? What's the thought process in your head of how you build a murder mystery? At least your style of doing it.
I like
You see, you've obviously been to one of my talks, Howard, because you're about to get to one of my stock things in the talk. But no, this is it. This is actually quite important. Um, I think after writing book one, I don't think I necessarily had spotted it, but as soon as I began to look at book two, I realised actually I had created a bit of a signature style. And in answer to your question, the bit about the classic phrase of "oh, these are page turners," and my books are often described as that, and I think it's because of three things. The first thing is I think it's very important to hook the reader in the first chapter. I think you just got to do something that is going to get that reader to go, "Oh, I really want to know what's happening." Because I say it, we've all read books where you kind of think, oh, and you sort of the book drifts on and on and on, and you're thinking, when is this ever going to get going? So that first chapter, hook the reader, that gets your story started. The second one, which is probably the most important one, and I always ask the question in my talks about this, is that most of my chapters are short chapters. And I always ask the question in talks, do people prefer short or long chapters? And actually, it's about a 75-25 answer in that most people like short chapters. And I feel strongly about this because it's that sense of progress in that, we never or generally don't get through a book in one sitting. So we're always wanting to end a story or a session, sorry, at a logical point. And I always say to people, I know it sounds odd, doesn't it, that we almost instinctively don't want to finish and stop a book when we're halfway through a chapter. We want to get to an end of a chapter. It seems like a logical point to stop. And I took the view that if people were wanting to make progress through the book and feel like there was momentum, having short chapters allowed you to kind of get through the book quite quickly and made you feel like you were getting there. And if you had to stop, you stopped. And then the third thing, and for those of you that are, I mean, we should all know this, but we should all remember Dallas, that brilliant series in the 1980s that hooked us in for ages. And the third thing I always say is that Dallas was always very famous for its cliffhangers. At the end of every series, wasn't it? Who Shot JR was the classic one. And whilst I wouldn't say that the end of every chapter is as severe a cliffhanger as Who Shot JR, I do try to give something at the end of every chapter that leaves an unanswered question, leaves a bit of a cliffhanger. And so with those three things together, people are feeding back and saying, yeah, it really works because it's you're leaving something open that people want to then go and read more about. And because the chapters are short, you can get through it pretty quickly. So that's been my signature style, I think, that has now become very much evident in every book that I've written.
nice.
And that's magic, that you found your rhythm, you found your
Yep.
lane. And again, this is the
Yep.
first time I did not have the time to go back and read some of your books, but now I want to, because the style, as you said, 75-80% of the people that resonated with, that's a big number. And
Yeah.
I thank you for sharing that, because I have to tell you, I came and put the book down, and I knew we were going to talk, and I just needed to get inside your head a little bit, and you laid it out so beautifully for me to be able to understand it. But basically, hook them early, and then short chapters to get them make the feeling forward progress, and then leave them wanting more with that cliffhanger. I think it's a beautiful strategy. I love it. Yeah. I'm going to go back and read more of your book. So, Sanette?
Well, thank you, my beautiful Howard. And I don't know if you saw, Colin, we put our glasses on.
Oh, did I miss a glasses option? Sorry, right. Okay.
No. While you were talking to showcase you, that you have moved us, while you were talking about empowering females. So thank you so much for that. So not necessarily for you to put it on while you're talking, it's just for us to showcase how incredible you gave me goosebumps. So I also don't want to give a lot away of the story, but I need to ask the question because Krista, you asked my question, and not the same wording as and your words, beautiful Laura, but also I wanted to ask the empowerment of the female character in the book. But now I've got another question. You've done a murder mystery and a counter-terrorism investigation. So this is two big genres. And then my question is, how did you approach balancing the complexity of both?
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting question in the sense that, I say this quite a lot, that when I was first writing, I joined a local writers group in Oxford. And one of the first things that I was advised was, don't overcomplicate your story. Don't have loads of characters in your story because it will confuse the reader. I don't tend to listen to people, and actually I should do a shout out to one of my other favourite authors apart from Agatha Christie, and that's Harlan Coben. Now Harlan's books are absolutely incredible, and one of the things that he does is he has multiple characters and has this incredible ability to bring those stories together. And I think that was something I aspired to and I wanted to do, and I do that now in every book. And it's a skill because you do need to make sure that if you're writing it from several perspectives, you do need to make sure that each character has a voice, has a reason for being there. But more importantly, you have to make sure that by the end of the story, those different characters' stories have come together. And I'm a great fan of the twist and the sort of, you just think that the sort of like even like the whodunit aspects, you even think the whodunit has happened and everybody knows, and all of a sudden you twist it round. And I think that is about making sure that if you do write from several perspectives, that you do make sure that you bring each one to a satisfactory ending. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a happy ending, because that's, sometimes we talk about, where do you get your sort of thoughts from? And I do say all from the dark recesses of my mind. And I must admit, I sometimes call my endings bittersweet, in that I don't necessarily think that everybody does have a happy ending. But that nonetheless, you want all characters to have a conclusion, and that's important.
I love that. Thank you so much. And while you were speaking, I just saw all your books that is going to go into movies. Are you ready for that?
Yeah.
I'm ready now. Yes.
I just saw it. So it's going to happen.
I'll hold you.
Wait. Before Krista goes, Colin, you just did a shout out to Harlan Coben. I was 12-year-old boy and he was about 15 years old. And we went to the same summer camp down towards Cape Cod, Massachusetts. And
cool.
So it's not that we interact, but we're in the same camp Facebook group where, he pops up a little bit. Not saying that I know him, but I went to camp. I knew him as a young teenager, and to have him have all this great success. He's a great writer and a great author. And thank you for doing that. And I just had to put the connection there.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So, first of all, I want to make sure everyone's kind of frozen. Can everyone see me?
Oh, she just got cut out.
There she goes.
This is live TV, so we're up to Laura.
Yep. All right, I'm going to go for it. Okay, I have too many questions. I can't figure out which one that I want to ask. So I'll do a fairly simple one at the moment.
Mm.
Are any of the characters based on anyone that you personally know? And if they are, do they know that it's like off of them?
Yeah, I get asked this question a lot. Um,
Yes.
the truth is, the answer is no. There is no one character that is based on an individual. However, um, what I say, and I mentioned, I mentioned the lady that, as I said, I worked for at the police, and I think that what I would say is, whilst there's not an individual character translated into a character in my book, some of the characteristics that
Yes.
inevitably you've experienced with these people, I think, are in characters in the book. So, for example, in the murder mystery novels, you tend to have a police team, a detective team of some description. And I always say this: I say that whilst you're not talking about individuals, you are talking about the characteristics, and I mean things like, policing is a pretty horrible job. They have to put up with a lot of very horrible things day in, day out. And yet when you're with operational policing teams, it's incredible to see the camaraderie that comes out of that, and some of the banter and the humor that is just within those people when they're dealing with some really quite horrible things a lot of the time. And so I think what I've tried to do within particularly the police teams in the books that I've written is to reflect some of that camaraderie and some of that sort of, the way that they operate. So like I say, no individuals, but definitely the kind of feelings and characteristics that you get from working within those kind of groups.
I love that answer. And I held near and dear a little bit of that with one of the characters, Brennan, because that's my middle name. And certain
Yes.
things, and moments though that you said certain things, and again, that a shout out to our law enforcement, right? And as you said, the people who
Yeah.
really protect us, and they get such a bad reputation, but they're
Yeah.
loving, caring, devoted,
Yeah.
funny human beings that do a tough job. And I
Yeah.
saw some of that in the book. That's why I was curious. Was there specific people, but as you said, it was characteristics of humans that you've connected with
Yeah.
over the years that maybe
Yeah.
seeded or settled in your heart or in your mind that you have
Yeah.
brought into the writing. So I love that. Thank
Correct.
you.
Yeah.
Miss
So,
Krista
Yeah.
or Mr.
Krista, you're
Colin?
Yeah.
back. So you're up.
Yes,
We're
I
waiting.
am. So fantastic. Yes, the book, we were talking about being a page turner. It was suspenseful, the fake
Yeah.
identities,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. And what I really liked when you were saying about the short chapters, what really caught me was it was the end of a chapter. I got the hook, and it was like 2 months later. So in between that, I'm like, whoa. So I was able to create a scene in my
Yeah.
mind that made it even more real. So I just wanted to give you some accolades on having that make it such the suspense kept
Yeah.
growing and growing using that one little tactic. I mean, fantastic. But my
Mm.
question for you is there a particular scene? You don't have to describe it totally or however you would want to answer it or however comfortable you're answering it. But is there a particular part of the story that's your favorite part?
Mm.
Yeah, I think it's partly what I've already said is that I think it's those twists. I think those are the bits that you mentioned earlier about, do I have the structure of the story in my head? Yeah, I always pretty much have a plot outline and I know what I'm going to do, but getting to the bit where you're writing the bit where all of a sudden it flips, and I don't know, let's say this particular story, it might be the realization as to the kind of the who done it, who the baddie is, and they're real twists because in theory, all the way through the story, if you've written it right, you've not suspected that person of being the kind of baddie. And I think those are the bits that I enjoy the most. Really, is that realization, whether it's the police officer realizing it or another character, where you get that sudden moment of, Ah, okay. That's who we're now looking for. So I think that's probably my favorite bit.
Oh, excellent. Mine too. I will totally say as those twists and turns, definitely were mine. So I was wondering if it was aligned with yours. So thank you. Great answer.
Thank you.
Yeah. Colin, it's I call those breadcrumbs. You're leaving us breadcrumbs so we can kind of
Yeah.
find our way down the path, because there's times in the book that you threw me off. I mean, that's, I'm sure, intentional as well.
Yeah.
So because you got to stitch it together, because if you throw
Yeah.
me too far off, I might not get back on track. But I
Yeah.
did, and breadcrumbs. You left
Yeah.
breadcrumbs, and I love that. I want to ask you something a little different. You're just meeting, many of us, through Sinette and through Penny, but I dictated my book. Okay. I took 3.5 years. I interviewed 158 people. The transcripts became drafts. The drafts became chapters. And thank God I have a great wife and an editing publisher that made it readable. What was your writing style? Did you wake up early in the morning, go to the gym and write? Did you write sequentially? Did you have to be like, you went and visited the hotel? And how did this all come together? If you kind of give me the dynamic of putting this,
Yeah.
really masterpiece mystery together.
Yeah. Again, this is something that I kind of feel quite strongly about, really, and that is that I hear lots of fellow authors giving themselves targets and getting really stressed about the fact they've not written 1,000 words that day. I don't do that. And it's one of the things I say. I think in this last year, I've been really trying to also encourage people to write, because I like to think that I can kind of provide my experience and say what an amazing thing it is. But therein lies the point. It has to be fun. It has to be enjoyable, and it can't be a chore. And so what I try to do is I try to make sure actually that I do some form of authoring every day. And the other thing is particularly a year ago when I actually became a full-time author, I now make a point of physically going out of the house every day, and often writing in coffee shops, or we've got a university just around the corner from us, which has got an amazing community space. And actually going out and being around people, even if you're not talking to them, can be quite good, because it can be quite a lonely profession. I mean, you can see behind me where I am. I mean, I could be sat here writing sometimes in my study, but you're kind of that can be quite lonely. You're not really interacting with people. And I think even if you're in the buzz of a university building or a buzz of a coffee shop, I can be writing in that environment. And the one thing that I will do, though, is I will try to write kind of in the morning or in the afternoon. I don't tend to write in the evenings, because that's, family time. My wife's back from work, whatever the sort of kids, well, they're not kids, they're grown up now, but, they're kind of, that's the sort of time to sit down and watch some telly and do stuff like that. So I am relatively disciplined in that respect. And I think that those factors are important, that you do get out there and you do get away from just sitting in your office every single day, because I'm not sure that's particularly healthy anyway. So yeah, and and it could be something simple as you walk down the road for 20 minutes and you've got some fresh air in there, and that helps as well. But the other thing that I'd also say, back to my point about not setting yourself targets, there are days when you wake up and you are so inspired and literally your fingers can't move fast enough on the keyboard. But there are other days when you're just like, I just don't have it. And I don't think that I ever have writer's block as such. And that's not anything I've ever particularly experienced, because what I do is on the days when I don't feel quite so inspired, I just edit. I will reread the stuff that I've already written. And I do write sequentially. I must admit, I don't understand people who write books in weird orders. That I think that's just me and the way that I approach it. So if I get a bit stuck, I'll go back and I'll read what I've already read and just do a little bit of editing, and that's how I keep the momentum.
Thank you for sharing your style. Everyone has their own style, but I
Sure.
appreciate the insights as to do that. And it happens. We have a friend named Buddy Thornton that can write 10,000 words in a setting and write a whole book in 2 weeks. That's not for everyone, but so it's helpful to know. I actually dictated my book and we pieced it together sequentially. It became sequential, but I didn't interview sequentially. So in the capture, but everyone has their own style, and that was very curious for me to how you did that. And I have to tell you that's a very big talent, because the breadcrumbs of keeping the reader engaged is the most important thing, and you've done that so well now, and you have a formula, and it's just exceptional, and I appreciate it. I want to compliment you on that.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, my beautiful miracle man. So, my beautiful Colin, I had 8 questions, but I cannot ask any of the questions I had because we actually discussed it. So, I'm going to ask something out of my heart. How does your wife and children feels about their famous dad and husband?
Oh, well, they're amazing. I mean, I think literally, I mentioned earlier, I think literally from that first day when I shoved a couple of pages in front of them and went, by the way, guess what I've done? And they were incredibly supportive. And my wife is forever. She works in a coffee shop in the hospital just up the road, and she's forever, telling people about me and giving them my business cards and trying to sell my books, and is so enthusiastic about it. The kids, they're either reading the books or they're promoting it to their workmates, and so they're really brilliant. But that applies to the much wider family group as well. Everybody has been amazing, and a number of them, of course, whether they like it or not, are my alpha readers. They're always the one that get the manuscripts first and get the opportunity to tell me what's good and bad about it. So they've learned that that's their role as well. So that's good.
I love that. I love that you've got alpha readers, because people say beta readers, and I thought, okay, like, I have to beat you to read my book. So I love that. I love alpha. I love that. And then I just wanted to say, when I met you the first time, we had our dance, we discussed.
We did.
Yeah, we found out your superpower and your dreams and everything. And when I say goodbye to you, I went out of Zoom and I ran down to my husband's where he was in the office, because we had our meeting in the morning. And
Yes.
I ran down to him and he was on the call. And I was like standing there. And then he said, I'm on the call. And I thought, oh, he just take away all my happiness, because I want to tell him I just met a real life famous author, and it's immersed. You are doing thriller books. And then he took away but then he came to my room and I said, oh, well, my husband, I met a most famous author, and they're going to make movies out of his books as well. And he said, okay, do I know him now? But you will know him soon. I said, thank you for
Well, I
being.
shall be forever grateful if that's true, Sanae. If that would be amazing.
It's going to be true. So I just want to say thank you so much for what you're doing. Please keep on doing it. Your books, your personality, everything, your heart is incredible. My beautiful Krista, if I can go to you. Are you muted, my girl?
Yes. Thank you for pointing that out. But not only was your books, was the detail of every story was different and how they all intertwined. And I was wondering, was there any experience throughout the book that maybe you personally had, or you personally gone through, or a family member, or based on someone that you went to high school with that you didn't like, or I don't know. Was there anything that you drew from any, experience from that?
Yeah, this is again an interesting question. Often my response is, "Gosh, I really hope not," because some of my stories are really quite dark and quite deep, and I think, "Gosh, I really do hope these are not real." However, I think again, this question does come up quite often, and people say what you're inspired by, and the easy answer is you're inspired by everything. And what I mean by that is you can be inspired by somebody you meet. You can be inspired by a place that you've been to. And in this particular book, as I've already said, that was very much relevant. But it can be a conversation that you overhear. It can be a TV show that you watch. And so whilst I'm glad to say that none of my books have actually got my own personal experiences in them, I think you are always picking up ideas, from all of those examples I've given. And I think they do just help you to kind of help you to sort of frame a story. And funnily enough, one of the things that I say in my talks, which works in the UK, and I'm not sure whether it works where you are. I often say that writing is like being on a car journey. And around Oxfordshire in England, we've got a particular road called the A34, which is always blocked, busy, whatever. And so I say to people, writing is like, driving around Oxford. You know where you're going to start, you know where you're going to end, but you get to the A34 and it's blocked again. So you take a diversion. And actually, that is another thing: is you don't necessarily have every single detail of every single element of your story, because you might be out one day and you might meet an interesting person, or you might have an interesting conversation, and you think, oh, actually, I wonder whether I could weave that into the story, and that's one of the diversions that you take. So, it can evolve sometimes, but it's always, for me, against a basic outline plan.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. You can see the plan, but I like that you still were open to letting it evolve and grow its own life, and that's what made
Yeah.
it so amazing. So thank you,
And of
Colin.
course, the people who review your books before it gets to print will sometimes say to you, that just doesn't work. That just doesn't make sense. And so often you are like, oh, okay, I need to rethink that. And so that happens as well.
Yeah, great.
So I'm going to ask a very quick question so we can get to the speed round. All right, so here we go, Colin. Do you think that if you were reading one of your books, you could solve the murder or the mystery?
Ooh, that is a good question. Let me answer that in a way that says,
Juicy. That's
I
juicy.
I do have lots of people. In fact, I had a lady recently, one of my friends, who keeps messaging me on WhatsApp going, oh, I think I've worked it out. It's so and so. And all I'll do is I'll put like a thinking emoji on it or a smiley emoji on it, just to say, maybe. So, I mean, I guess I would hope that I would have sufficient insight. I think when you write, and that's actually an interesting point, actually, is when you write, you are assuming that you are keeping people kind of unsure as to what's going on. But actually, your very question is a good test, because actually, if somebody comes along to you and goes, I was reading your book and I worked out who it was halfway through, then you maybe know that you've not quite structured it right. So I guess I would hope so. I guess I would hope to have some insight into my mind if I was reading my own books.
Cool. Great answer.
So, Colin, we do something here, and this is sort of my specialty, is that we're going to do a speed round where I'm going to mention a word or two, and then you can comment. They're short comments usually. This is actually this is going to help people, entice them to buy your book. I did it this way because I didn't want to reveal, and I want people to get your book because it's cool. It's a great story, and it keeps you kind of wanting to find out and get to the finish line, and so it's good. But you use some words there, and maybe this is just the UK versus the USA. But I wrote the first word down: plummy.
Plumbing.
Plummy. Plummy. It's early in your book.
Plummy. Oh, okay. Okay, so that is again, that's interesting. I mean, I don't know whether that's obviously maybe not a word used in the US. Plummy essentially is a description of somebody with a very posh accent, and it's a word we use in the UK. Plummy.
Okay.
I actually have no idea of its origins, but there you are. But it means a posh person, a posh voice.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that, because I just not used every day here in America. So, okay. The next word, okay, thud. It's repeated through your book a bunch of times, the word thud. So
yes.
What were you thinking there?
So my thinking there was to start. This is really where the story starts, is that a couple of essentially a murder is committed, or it appears that a murder is committed in a hotel room, and people in adjoining hotel rooms hear a thud, i.e. a loud noise. And the idea being that they are kind of wondering what that is. And then I think it's the following morning when the whole case really kicks off that they go, oh, I heard that noise. And I suppose, again, I don't know, it's interesting listening to you ask that question, because I guess those are words which in the UK, everybody would kind of use. And yet, if they're words that you don't kind of relate to, that's quite interesting. But yeah, essentially that was about creating the mystery of what was that noise.
Oh no, we use thud here in America.
Oh, you
Thud.
do, right?
Not plummy.
But not
not
plummy.
plummy, but it became resonant because that thud was sort of breadcrumbs for me. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So the next one, blood.
Well, here we go. I think this is the thing about, particularly in this story, moving from a point where, again, without giving too much of the story away, where the person that discovers the blood actually goes in and at the first point thinks it's red wine. So it's about moving from that point of what feels quite comfortable and normal to all of a sudden it's blood. So it's that impact thing.
Yeah. Awesome.
And I just, there's a secondary character that you developed so brilliantly. So I'm just going to say the word Eva.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now this is actually something that I this was very early on in the story construction. I kind of had this idea of, could you have a member of the staff in the hotel who was, possibly a little bit of a crime fanatic, one of these people that watches all like CSI and all these kind of shows, and somebody that, was very much in the middle of it, but was in this sort of whole situation of they were involved and they were scared and they were kind of really, upset by some of the things. But actually, their kind of desire to be so involved in the kind of crime aspect of it was almost balancing it out for them, and so they were wanting to help the police and help to contribute. So, yeah, she was a character that I kind of dreamt up quite early on, and it was funny because I did speak to some of the members of the staff in a couple of hotels, because actually when I was doing a little bit of research, I did visit a few hotels before I suddenly found the one with the facade and everything else. But I did kind of jokingly look up to a few hotel staff when I was doing some research and said, oh, do you want to be the murderer then? And it was amazing how often people were like, oh, yeah, I'd love to do that. And so I think it was also about the fact that there was an energy from people who were like, oh, wouldn't it be great to be in your book? And although they weren't obviously translated, that definitely inspired me to kind of add that hotel character into the mix.
I just think it's just cool character development. It was really brilliant. And my last, I have 2 words, and because I'm very intrigued now, because this book is very new. It's just out, and I think it's going to do incredibly well. And I hope we'll propagate it through our whole networks. We're really good about that as well.
Thank you.
2 words. What's next for Colin Wade?
Oh, well. It's funny you should ask. It's almost like we rehearsed this. No, I've literally just finished the first draft of the manuscript for book 7, which is called The Oxford Mystery. One of the things, again, I always get asked is, why haven't you written the same character in all of your books? Because, hey, we know some incredibly successful authors who've created characters that everybody learns to love, and they write book after book after book. What I kind of say is, I think I'd always had so many different ideas in my head that I have written 6 standalone books. But people keep asking me to write about DCI Chloe Taylor, who's the main character. Why aren't you doing another one? And I'm thinking I might go back there. But while that book was obviously being published, I was out there writing the next one, which is called The Oxford Mystery. And it's also because Oxford in England is written about a lot in terms of, we I don't know if you know the Morse series written by Colin Dexter, very famous in the UK, probably famous worldwide. And there's lots and lots of books written about Oxford. I'd never written one. And so somebody said to me, why aren't you writing a book about your hometown? And so I thought, right, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And so this book is another sort of real mystery thriller. There's not, I don't, is there, oh yeah, there's a little bit of murder in it, but not so much. But one of the things that one's also about is I wanted to centre the story around a mystery trail in Oxford. And it's actually a real mystery trail, which I've worked out. I've sent people around the town, and the story hangs around this mystery trail. So I can't say too much more, but that is one of the things that I'm doing. So that book is basically written. It now needs to be reviewed and edited. So happy days.
Wow.
Sinette is going to burst. She needs to give you the paparazzi treatment. She's going to burst.
Are you ready, Colin?
I love it.
Well, you heard it here on the Soul Diamond author journey, okay, from famous author Colin Wade, who wrote Murder at the Manor, and he just gave us the huge reveal on his next book called The Oxford Mystery. You heard it here first. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'd love to hand the show back to Sinette. Oh my God, that was brilliant. Thank you.
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
My beautiful Colin, how are you feeling?
Oh, I'm empowered. Entirely empowered now. It's been amazing. Thank you. Your questions have been very, very, very kind of interesting and have really helped me to kind of hopefully convey the kind of love and passion I've got for writing and just how much I enjoy it. But it's so good to hear that you've enjoyed the book as well. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you, my beautiful Colin. So my beautiful viewers on E360, as well as our beautiful Tanzanite heroes and Diamond Beauties Forever, please, it's almost Halloween, and in South Africa we don't celebrate Halloween, but here in New Zealand, Halloween is big thing. So go and buy Colin's book. You will not put the book down. You will not put the book down. So, my beautiful Colin, thank you for being truly an amazing author, amazing person. My beautiful Laura, Miracle Man, and Rosebud. Laura, you will get a name. I promise you, it will come. Thank you so much for being our co-host. And then my beautiful viewers on E360. When last did you sit down, take time for yourself, and read a Colin Wade book? It's going to be amazing. So, my beautiful Colin, Laura, Howard, and Krista, will you have a dance with me?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Love it.
Thank you. My beautiful viewers, will you have a dance with us? They said yes. They said
Let's do
yes. Here we go. Colin. I love it. I'm going to take a photo.
Oh, I better put my glasses back on.
Okay, please put it on your. Thank you.
Sprinkle me with fairy dust so I can fly away. Smiling at a moonbeam or squinting in the sun. Sprinkle me with fairy dust and cover me with love.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you.